I always think about the fact that, you know, you were one of the key writers on the Seinfeld show, the legendary Jerry Seinfeld show. And it's not like you write in a room with a group of people.
Right.
You go and you write a script for Jerry. Do they hire you first to write a script? Do they say, go off, we'll pay you, and write a script? Or do you have to just, on spec, write a script and then submit it?
No. What they did was they hired the staff, and I was lucky enough because they didn't want people who'd worked on sitcoms before.
Right.
Because Larry David felt like they would have been ruined already by the system. So
Right.
they want people who were new to writing sitcoms. So,
And you had been a stand-up comic for years, and you had
Yes.
worked with Jerry on the road, and
Right.
blah, 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 blah.
Jerry was the MC at the comic strip when I auditioned at the comedy club, who passed me on the audition, and Larry David was the MC at Catch a Rising Star when I auditioned.
Is it a disappointment when you write a killer Seinfeld episode and you don't get to be in it?
You know, Howard,
It would kill me. You've
Really?
written probably some of the most legendary Seinfeld episodes, and yet you walk around, you know, and people will go around and they'll, of course, go to Jerry. Jerry, we love your show. I love when you had shrinkage. That was my favorite episode. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
you're the person who conceived of shrinkage.
No, but here's the thing. I mean, the ideas for that episode, The Hamptons, came together, and it was Larry David who came up with shrinkage.
Oh, he did?
Even though it's in my episode. Because what's very important to say about Seinfeld is every writer wrote their draft of a script.
Right.
But Larry and Jerry did the final pass on every single script. So the brilliance, honestly, that you see out there on TV is really filtered through them.
Had you ever written a script that was so perfect that Larry and Jerry just said, we are not touching this masterpiece?
No.
It never happens that way.
No, that never happened that way. Everybody, the big thing at Seinfeld was to pitch an idea that they liked. Okay?
Right.
If you didn't have an idea, you were out. So I knew that when I went into Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld's office, and it was their office together, and I said, okay, George hires a deaf woman to lip read his ex-girlfriend's lips from across the room at a party
Right.
so he can find out why she broke up with him. Larry would shoot up and go, that's a show. We're doing that. That's a show.
If I'm hired to be a writer on Seinfeld, because I think this is the hardest job on the planet.
Yeah.
You know, you make it look easy, but it's hard. How many other writers are there?
There were probably about 10 other writers when I was there.
All right. When you make these pitches, do you pitch your ideas in front of the whole writing staff, or do you pitch
No,
them privately?
it was just to Larry and Jerry.
And Jerry and Larry had an office somewhere, and they'd say, Carol, at 10 o'clock is your pitch meeting with us.
Or better yet, the writer would go, hey, can I catch you later? I want to pitch some of my ideas.
So there was no office there for you, like where you sat and
No,
wrote?
I did have my own office. But
You don't write those at home? Or
No.
You mean you have to go into some office on a lot somewhere
Yeah.
and do your writing for the day?
But of course, that's the most fun part of it.
Why is that fun?
Because you're hanging out with funny writers all day.
Oh, so in other words, they'll help you when you write your script, or you go off and write it on your own?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, you would go and pitch, ideas like that. Like that became the lip reader, that episode. Then it became...
All right, well, tell me about the lip reader. Don't leave that episode so fast.
One of the ideas of that came from my real life, which I use a lot in my writing, of where Elaine pretended she was deaf because she didn't want the car service guy talking to her while she was in the back seat. And that always came out of when I was gigging as a comic and the car service guy would pick me up. It was like, I want somebody who will just leave me alone in the back seat.
That is so true.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would always get the yakaholic who could not pick up on the hints of like, buddy, shut it down, you know? So we use that.
That's the amazing thing about comedy writers. Something that happens every single day of our lives, you have to turn into greatness. The everyday horrors, right? You have to be
Yes.
an ultra-sensitive human being to be
You
a
do.
comedy writer.
Right.
Everything's got to kind of tick you off and irk you, right?
And what's so great about it is to turn it into comedy is the greatest thing ever.
How about the understudy, where Elaine thinks the manicurists at the Korean nail salon are talking about her in Korean behind her back?
Yes.
So she brings in George's father, who served in Korea, who knows Korean,
Right.
to find out what they're saying. And sure enough, the manicurists are talking behind Elaine's back.
Right.
All right.
Well, that genesis of that is, people always ask, what's it like being a woman in a male-dominated industry? I think the most important thing you have to do is mine your own experience because that's your advantage, okay?
Right.
Like how many guys are going to pitch, Elaine thinks the Korean manicurists are talking about her behind her back? Because that happened to me every time I got a manicure.
What a classic bit that was. What a classic script, right? You go to the manicurist, and you figure out to bring an interpreter to find out what the fuck they're saying behind your back. I don't know. I just think that's so brilliant.
Right. And then the beauty of working on a hit show like that was I based it on a nail place that I went to that I still get free manicures because the woman is thrilled we used the exterior of her nail place.
Ah.